welcome everyone to Expanding Your Consciousness. Today is November the 8th, 2022, and our topic is free will and the voices within. About 8 months ago, we did cover the topic of free will, but we decided to go back to it and take another look at this topic because people have such diverse thoughts about it. So I thought this time too, I would start with a definition of free will. And so this is from the Oxford Dictionary. It's free will is the power to make your own decisions about what to do without being controlled by God, fate, or circumstances. And the Merriam-Webster Dictionary says, 1, it's a voluntary choice or decision. I do this by my own free will. Or 2, freedom of humans to make choices that are determined by prior causes or by divine intervention. That are, I think it should be, that are not determined by prior causes or by divine intervention. Okay, but first of all, I think, Kelly, you want to start with this topic, right? So I thought maybe you'd want to give us some of your thoughts on free will.
But first, though, can we do this? Can we take a poll and see how many we have that believe in free will and how many don't? And then we'll take a poll at the end and see if anyone's changed. How's that?
You want to do that?
Yeah, well, just take a second, right? I mean, how many? So how many people believe in free will? Just put your hands up in the air.
Well, not everybody is showing themselves. So Kelly, you have to tell us, and Faith, you have to tell us.
Yes, I do believe in free will. What's the other option? There is no other option.
Oh, I guess I'll go then.
No, I don't.
Okay, there's one believe. Okay, and then Eric, you believe in free will, right? There's 2. Anybody else? That's it?
I do.
3.
Yeah.
Do you believe in free will?
No.
Okay.
And Bob believes in free will. He just
Is he joining us?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You forwarded to me, or
So, and you said Bob does believe. So does that mean we have 4 yeses and 3 nos?
Okay.
So, okay.
so
Is that right?
7 on the call. It should be 3 and 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 3 and 4. So I have 3 nos and 4 yeses. And so Kelly, I'd like you to give us your thoughts on this.
I don't believe in it because I think that it can be easily manipulated. And so that's why I don't. I think it's too easy to manipulate something like that.
But what do you mean by that? Like, are you saying that we have it and it's being manipulated, or we shouldn't have it, or we don't have it? I don't quite understand what you're saying.
We have it, but it's being manipulated. So that is a big problem.
But the question was, do you believe we have free will? That's the question, right? So you're saying we do.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we do.
All right.
We do. Yeah.
So we've got 5 and 2 then.
Yeah.
Kenny and I are the only ones that don't believe in it.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to, any more comments, Kelly, about it? Yeah.
Yeah. So because of free will, we don't really have, we can be in a room of 100 people and similar, values and similar thoughts on things, but we don't fully agree on everything. And that's because of free will.
Okay. All right. Eric, did you want to comment on this? Because I think you said, yes, we do, right?
You have to differentiate 2 things. The principle of free will, I agree on. The practical application of free will is another matter. So I will not go into detail, or if or you do want me to go there. But again, the principle, yes. The application, oh, that's a far different matter.
Oh, Could you give me like an idea of what you mean though? Like you're saying the practical.
Meaning, if we consider ourselves as mind, then I disagree having a free will, meaning I see myself as a system, not as an entity, a standalone. I think we, if I remember very well, we talked about the internet and the standalone computer. So the internet has free will. We are not a standalone computer, we are a terminal. We are connected to the internet. So the connection between the computer and the internet, of course, as Kelly states, manipulates our free will. Again, I will try. I see myself as a 12 system. Exactly, I live, that's how I see myself, in 12 dimensions or densities. The one you're talking to lives in the third dimension.
Yes.
He is influenced by the one who lives in 4D. He is influenced like a matrushka, a bigger, and up to God if you want to, where you want to go, that's all. But of course, the bigger one is the bigger one. And the mind here, which you're talking to, is the smallest one. So me, I have the smallest part of my system, free will. I hope that was clear.
Anyone like to add to that, Brent?
A couple of things I think we should be concerned about. There's the fundamental aspect of like, do I make choices or don't I? And then there's like the stuff that comes after that. Well, I do have free will, but then again, I can't exercise it in the society we live in. Okay, just look at the fundamental aspect of it and don't concern yourself with all that other stuff, because yeah, there's times you can't, if you believe you have free will, you can't implement it because of some norms in society, let's say. So that doesn't deter your free will. It deters your exercise of it. That's a separate issue. So let's try and keep it at a fundamental level when we talk about free will, or somebody's going to say something in regard to implementing it and not mention that, and we're going to think that's what they believe about the fundamental aspect of it. So there's all that stuff we can talk about that interferes with free will, but let's just talk about whether we've got it or not.
But you're saying we don't have it.
Well, yeah, I'm saying that we don't have it, but I'm not referring to that right now. I'm just referring to the idea in general, whether you believe it or you don't believe it. If you believe, I mean, if it exists, it's at a fundamental level. We decide to do something or we decide not to do something, and we have that power or we don't. The other stuff that comes in about we can't exercise it because of society or some of the things that Eric was talking about, that's a separate issue, and we could talk about that as a separate issue. But the fundamental aspect I thought that we were going to be talking about is, do we have it or don't we? And whether it's interfered with or messed around with by society is a separate issue.
So are you saying that in regards to this physical self that we're in right now, you're saying that we don't have free will? And if we're just looking at this part of ourselves, and
Well,
we should focus on that part. Is that what you're saying?
If that's the way you want to say it, I guess I would agree with that. I mean, I don't believe in it because of things that I've discovered since I used to believe in it. So I've been in both sides. I've believed in it before, and now I don't, and I've got good reason for that. So I'll talk about that, as things go on. But I'm just trying to discern the difference between the fundamental aspect of whether we have it or not, and not all the other stuff that can happen that says, well, I don't really have free will because I can't exercise it, but I do have it. So let's focus on that part.
But don't we have, I'm thinking of my free will, because I believe I have free will, a choice to make a decision to think of ourselves as broader beings, right? I'm just saying, because along with what Eric was saying, there's so many sides to us, right? That we work in different zones or different dimensions. So maybe in the physical sense, we feel that we may not have a lot of choices, but if we were to expand ourselves and our sense of selves, maybe these choices that we think we have no choice here, that we actually do have greater choices. I think of what Christ said, right? Everything, I do, you can do, and more. He was saying there, because we're in a field of all possibilities, we can choose whatever type of world we want, right? Our own universe, our own world.
Well, it appears that way on the surface, but when you look at your life, it doesn't really play out that way. I mean, first of all, you can't even think about the idea of free will unless it comes to mind. So we're walking around all the time, and most of the time we're not even thinking about free will. We're just doing things. So to entertain the idea has to come into consciousness. And then to pursue that idea, you have to have a desire in that moment to pursue it. It's like anything, like it's time to clean the bathroom. Okay, well, you could clean the bathroom if you wanted to, but if you don't want to in that moment, you're not going to. Well, what is it that determines whether we want something or not? Do we actually pick and choose between the things we want and we don't? If you think you do, then ask yourself, could I change my favorite color? Could I change my sexual preference on a whim because somebody says, well, exercise your free will and, become bisexual because then you'll have twice as many lovers. Okay, well, that makes a lot of logical sense in a way, but if you're fundamentally not attracted to your same sex, you can't just decide to do that. The only thing you can decide to do is about things that you want to do right in that moment. And wanting something or not wanting something is not something we control.
But we do that all the time, don't we?
Give me an example.
Well, if we want something in our lives, we're making that choice right then and there that we want something.
Well,
if I wanted to get, a degree or something, and then I set the ball rolling for me to do that, right? If I want to live in another town, I would set everything in motion to do that move. I mean, we're doing that all the time.
It appears that way. I mean, like we all came to this group today, right? Well, the only reason we're here is, first of all, we had to find out about the group being here, number one. And the second thing is we had to want to come. Now, sometimes we all don't show up on the same day because some of us have things we have to do and can't come. We would like to come, but we can't, or we just don't feel like coming. Now, if we had free will, the kind that I think you're referring to, you're saying that the wanting is my choice. Like if I want to do something, like that's my choice. But when you really look at it, you're not aware of any kind of feeling that you're going to have like 5 minutes from now or 5 seconds from now. Even we don't know what we're going to be feeling in the future ever. We know what we're feeling right now, but the next instant can change that. Something can happen and we can be changed, and somebody can leave this group because they forgot to do something that was really important, and and all of a sudden they remembered that, and now they're out of the group. They don't really want to go, but they have to go. Okay, so what I'm saying is, like, in this present moment right here and now, like, okay, so we're here because all of us wanted to come here at this time on this day, rather than do something else. And that was a feeling that arose in us at some point between the time we found out about this meeting happening and showing up to this meeting. Like there's people that know about this meeting. I think there's a couple of people that signed up online that aren't here. Now, they thought they were going to come here. They had the desire to come here. But they didn't show up. There's a reason for that. And it's probably something happened that caused them to want to do something else more than be here.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that we end up doing, if there's a multiplicity of options available, especially like if you've got 2 meetups at the same time on the same day, you can't go to both of them. So in that case, what do? Well, you look at door A you know, group one and you look at group two. And if you don't know right away which one you're going to do, you just think about it, you know, well, this is this is that, this is the way this group works, you know, and hopefully at some point, the desire for one of the groups will rise up and be this high over the desire of the other group. And then you'll go, yeah, I'll take this right here. I'll go in this direction. I'll go with this one, because that's where the strongest desire is in that moment. That's the best deal. And so we're always heading in the direction of whatever the best deal is when the options are different. And so that's not really a choice. That's just something that you feel. But by the time you say, oh, I choose that, it's already set and done, because you're already feeling the desire to go there that's stronger than the desire to do anything else. I mean, that's the only reason that you would pick to go someplace anyway. If you really had the ability to pick it, you'd only pick what you wanted to do. But we don't make our wanting and our desires. We don't create those. We don't control those.
How do you know that though?
Well, because okay, so from a logical point of view, it makes more sense to be bisexual than to be just one sex. I mean, I'm not attracted to anybody else but women. I can't just decide to take advantage of the fact that now the world has got twice as many potential lovers in it. You know, I can't just say that. I can't just do that. I have to feel that inside.
Yeah.
That comes on its own. Like
Yeah,
all the
but not necessarily, Brent. I
Give
mean,
me an
there.
example. What
I'm saying is sometimes we are conditioned by movies, television, psychologists, doctors, whatever, on and on, to think that we want something when ultimately that's what advertising is about, right? Advertising isn't about a great product, it's about a lifestyle now, or, you know, you want this certain image, right? So, I mean, you know, like if you're talking about the sexuality thing, it is now almost like a trend not to be, heterosexual or something, right?
That is another reason why free will doesn't exist, is because there's all these influences out there that have nothing to do with us, that we follow along, because when we're children, we get coerced into believing certain things. I mean, free will, we wouldn't even be talking about right now if we didn't get it, if we didn't get the story of free will when we were children. See, society wants to control people. They want to throw people in jail that are bad. They want an excuse for doing that. And the excuse is that this person decided to do this crime, and they thought about it, and they wanted to do it. So we got to get them off the streets. I agree, put them in jail. But they'll all tell you the same thing. They'll all say, I only did what I had to do. They'll tell you that. And it's like, that's the way it is for everything. I mean, everything that you look at as being a choice, like until you know which direction you're going to go in, you don't know which direction you're going to go in. And it takes a feeling of desire to come into you. Like we're not independent of our desires. Our desires come and go within us all the time. And that's what determines what we do. If I had not had a strong enough desire, I would not be here today. I would be doing something else, like these other two people that signed up. Their desire changed. That's why that's exactly why they didn't come today. Like you've got to look at this. Like,
well, can I say, you're using the word desire, right, as a feeling, but it could have been something came up suddenly that it wasn't a desire. They had to, an emergency came up or something else came up, right?
That's a desire to take care of an emergency. That's a desire too. Anything that you do has some kind of a desire behind it, whether it's to head in the direction towards the desire or to head away from it. Like there's always behind everything there are human feelings, and desire is one of the most powerful ones we have, and that's there.
Okay, so Brent, I want to give Kenny a chance to respond. Thank you.
I would like to look at this from a different point of view. I want to look at it from Eric's point of view of describing himself as a system. So right now, if somebody asks us, well, what is yourself? What is this thing that has free will? Me, what's me? So most of us think that me is some combination of our body and our mind. In the East, they have this, they go like this, they make a little triangle. They talk about body, mind, and spirit. So that's their interpretation, but they're defining three things, and most of us define two things, but whatever it is, that's the self. So both of those contain the word body. Your body doesn't have free will. If it did, you would be young forever. You'd be healthy forever. The body gets hungry, it needs to be cared for, it has all those limitations. And then when we get a number of us in a society, the society creates laws to live by. We don't have freedom. You disobey the law, you get a big fine, you're in the slammer. So you can.
Yeah, but there's a difference between free will as a spiritual being and freedom within society, within this structure that has been created to control us, right? So
Okay,
anyway,
so-
keep going,
so you-
Kenny. Keep going.
Be careful when you use the word us, because
Okay.
remember, we're talking about either a body, either and, some combination of body, mind, and then you mentioned spirit. So there's a spiritual self. So if you want to include that, that's good. But the mind is still there and the body is still there. So when you say we, if you want to refer to only one of those, spirit, then we have to talk like that. But that wasn't one of your rules. Your rule didn't include this definition. So that's why I like what Eric was saying, where he's got this hierarchy definition thing going, where there's the body and then there's groups of bodies, the family and governments and all that stuff. And of course, as soon as you introduce those higher levels, there goes your freedom of choice out the window. So let's focus on, well, first of all, let's look at mind. Mind thinks in terms of language. So if you're multilingual, you have more choice, more free choice than those of us who are unilingual. So you can't, because we can't think in French, or we can't, if we go to an Italian movie, we see all these hot lovers on the stage, or on the movie, but we can't tell what they're saying because we don't speak Italian. So there goes that freedom. You can't enjoy a Russian movie if you don't speak Russian. I think that's why so many people have English as their second language, because Hollywood makes great movies. But anyway, so now let's look at spirit, whatever that is. Now this is going to be a little tricky to define. Some people talk about a soul, and I prefer not to go there because there's such, without a proper definition, and I don't want to be the one setting that definition because I'm not so sure that the soul thing actually exists. I think the mind is much more complex, and so some parts of the mind have freedom, and some parts, freedom of choice, and others don't. So I think the soul, or the spirit, is pretty theoretical thing. It doesn't really affect our lives that much. So that's a long-winded say. So I used to be a member of a school called the Academy of European Arts and Culture. The teacher there is a guy named Mervyn Brady, and he taught extensively why you do not have free choice in any of those categories, anything you can name. Now, I want to hear from you, Di, because you talked about the spiritual level, and I want to know what that is, because maybe that part does have free choice. It can certainly say the words, I have free choice, and I choose not to go to jail because I don't want, or not to pay the fine. So I'm not going to do the crime, so I won't have to do the time. So I want to hear what your definition of spirit is, but the mind has rules and the body has rules, and that restricts free choice. So if we think we have free choice, it's a pretty specific thing. One of the other things Mervyn taught was that if you want to have free choice at some level, you've got to work like hell to get that. You've got to position yourself so that you have freedom of choice. So if we live in a country where there's laws and taxes and things like that, and you don't want to go along with that, you've got to move to a different country. Otherwise, you spend a lot of time in jail.
But Kenny, I have to go back to that. So he's saying we do have free will, but you have to work for it, right? That's what he's saying.
You
So
know,
if you think what the yogis do, you know, and they can go beyond this physical world and project out of the body and all sorts of things that they can do. And, you know, we talked about, you know, feeding the body, but there are people that can go through this life and not consume solid foods, right? So what I'm saying is it's only because most of us have picked up habits throughout our life, and we put a lot of trust in a corrupt system, right? So we believe, you know, a lot of people believe in politicians, believe in the legal system, believe in all that, and the medical system, right? But what I'm saying is there are a lot of people that are a growing number of people saying, no, I'm a free being in this physical world and beyond, and I'm going to pull out of those systems and make my own choices. So, okay, Eric.
Interesting topic. Two things. While Brent was throwing his arguments, I 100% agree with his arguments. But strangely, or not strangely, I said yes and he said no. Going there is thus two things. First, does Eric 100% know he has free will? Answer, no. He does not know. He has never experienced 100% free will. So for Eric, personal thing, I said, I believe in free will. It's a belief, it's not a fact, because it's not a knowing. That's one. Then what Kenny said, I agree also. I will give an example. I probably told, I'm sure I told, I have many and deep connection with the higher dimensions. I have been fighting the higher dimension, myself, my higher selves, for years and years, working my way up, as you said, Diane. One anecdote, I was working in Brussels. I had to take the train. So when my job was almost finished, I normally take, maybe it's a detail, but then again, I will try to explain. I take the train of 4:20. And I was having the discussion all day with my higher self. I wanted this, I wanted that. It was arguing, no, you must do this, or you must do that. I was fed up. After 8 hours of discussion, discussing with my higher self what I should do and what I should not do. And he said, okay, I will give you an example on the train home where you will meet someone who will give you the answer on your question. He said, okay. But I was so mad at the end of the day. I said, what the fuck? I will get a later train. I will get the train of not of 20 past, but of the train of 24 past. That will make no difference me getting home, but I will not meet that person on the train. Free fucking will. I was mad as hell. So I stalled, and I get to the train station platform at 4:23. I said, okay, the train of 4:20 is gone. I've got them. I made my own choice. I sat on the platform and I looked to the right and I looked to the board, and he said, the train of 20 past 4 is 4 minutes late. So I stepped
Yeah.
on that. I stopped at that train, and I was standing there because there was no room to sit. And suddenly a girl passed to me and said, "Hi, Eric, long time no see." And I said, "Oh yeah." I didn't know that lady personally, but we talked, and she just talked. She was starting to chat as normal people do, and she was telling a story, not very interesting. And suddenly she said one sentence, my answer on my question, what I was discussing with my higher self all day. And then I knew, wow, free will is out of the door. But I agree, Diane, I learned over the years to work myself up and understand that free will is something else than what Ken said, the mind.
Yes.
My mind was not
Yes.
there, but then again, it's a principle. And what I do now is I always ask, and I told you that also, what I do when I wake up is not what does Eric want, but what does one of my upper levels want. And they say, this will happen, and we ask of you this and this and this and this. That's why I call it a system. That's it.
Great story. Thanks for sharing that, Eric. Because what you're saying is, in this state of consciousness we're in here, it is being controlled by our higher selves or other dimensional selves. That I would agree with. There have been times when I had, certain things that I wanted to do here. For example, I thought, well, I wanted to work for the city of Hamilton until retirement. I wanted to do this, I wanted that. But at another level, that wasn't going to happen. I had to leave that position. I had to go elsewhere, learn more, right? To actually help expand my understanding of this world, which is something that I've always wanted to know, like, why are things the way they are? So anyway, okay, Faith?
Yeah, hang on a second. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's a very complex issue, eh? But very simple at the same time. Yeah, free will, I believe can be manipulated through fear. And in a way, I do believe in free will. Like I agree with your take on it, right, Diane? That, okay, so we make decisions, we make choices in our life, and so we have a lot of freedom here politically. It appears that way anyway in the West compared to other countries, especially for women, right? So we're pretty lucky in that way. But then on the other hand, free will is being manipulated by the media, by our peers, our family, society, our employers, and marketing, advertising. The very crafty psychologists have found ways to target our insecurities. And so is it really free will if we're taking risks with our health, people going under the knife and stuff like that, because they want to they perceive that it's going to make them look better, and then they'll get more love and all that kind of stuff, right? They want to be loved, and if they're more beautiful, then they'll have more love, or if they have more money, they'll have more love. So there's kind of, yeah, so in that way, a person's free will is kind of being manipulated, right? But yeah, it's a tricky one. Ultimately, we do have free will to discern and to develop wisdom and to look inside for our own guidance and our own wisdom. And I think it comes with time and with our own discernment to know what is truth and what's coming from, outside manipulation, right? And conditioning, our own conditionings. Free will to discern and to look inside for our own truth and what works best for our lives and our own choices. That's about
And I also think too that part of why we feel we do not have free choice or free will is the pressure of what other people think of us, right? Faith, you and I know someone who really doesn't care what people think of him, and he is very much a risk taker. He speaks his mind. He does, great things, wonderful things. And, most people would, criticize him for it, right? In fact, if you talk to him, he feels very free, has a lot of energy and all this because he doesn't worry about what his family thinks or his neighbors think or anyone else, right? He just does his own thing.
Yeah, so he's exercising his free will.
Yes.
I feel that I've done that. It's come to me more and more as I get older. Yeah, my own, like getting in touch with my own free will and applying it, exercising it. Yeah, and it comes with risk as well, so that's the thing with freedom and free will is it does come with responsibility, and it's not without risk, but it's worth it in the end. I feel it's rewarding, more rewarding.
Okay. Anyone like to comment? Kenny, Brent?
I have a poem I'm going to read, and I think I read it to this group just within a few months. But it's a poem about free will. So
Yeah.
let me just look it up on my other computer here, and I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Brent?
Well, I mean, I would say that I would probably be on the side of you guys who believe in free will if this particular thing never happened to me. And it got me going in a separate direction. And what happened was this philosopher that I ran into, I really liked him a lot. So I started reading this book, and he said flat out in there wasn't such a thing as free will. And that pissed me off. I mean, that made me angry, because how could this person who's so intelligent say something so stupid, and I was shocked, and it made me mad. And so what I thought I needed to do was just prove him wrong. So
Yes, but you said he was a philosopher, right?
Yeah.
So was he an atheist?
I don't know. Probably he might have been, but I don't know if he was atheist or not. That doesn't really, to me, that
But
doesn't
it does. It
make any
does
difference.
because we create our own universe, our own sense of the world, right? So if he thinks that he's just this body and nothing more, that's going to influence his idea of what free will is.
Well, you can believe, I don't know if God exists or doesn't. He's never had a conversation. He's never tapped me on the shoulder and said, you want to have a conversation with me. And until he does, it's an idea. It's a thought. I don't know if he exists or not. That's got nothing to do with my free will, my idea of free will at all. So it doesn't matter to me whether he's an atheist or he isn't. And to reduce down what he said or what I'm saying to us being like just into the body aspect, that's interfering. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, I don't consider myself to be just a body because I don't believe in free will. I mean, those aren't. Anyway, let me finish the story.
Okay.
Anyway,
right.
so this guy, what basically happened is he just pulled the rug out from underneath my feet, and he just made me really angry because I knew I had free will. Everybody has free will. What's the deal here? So anyway, I got mad, and I had to prove him wrong. So I went on a journey to prove this guy wrong. And one of the first things that happened to me is I was doing yoga in my living room. And I was laying there and everything was cool. And then in the next instant, I find myself getting up off the floor. And all of a sudden it dawns on me, oh, I'm getting up. I was laying down. I've just made a choice. Okay. So I want to go back in my mind and I want to figure out how I chose to get up. So I tried to trace it back in my mind. And so I saw myself laying down on the floor, you know, and gee, there was nothing going on. And I just was happy to be there. And then I saw this, I felt something come towards me. It was like it was something outside my body, probably was not outside my body, but it was like a force that came into me. And as soon as it hit me, my body started to move and I started getting up. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I've never experienced that before. Where did that force come from? But it just made me get up. And I thought, okay, well, I still must have made a choice in there someplace. So I kept thinking, you know, and it just happened. I got up off the ground. I stopped. I traced back in my mind. So I was as close as you could get. And I tried to find out where that choice was. And I looked at the whole scenario there, and I couldn't find a choice point that got me to get up. But there was this force that came into me that seemed to make my body start to move. But that's all that was really happening. And I had several experiences like that after that, where, you know, I'd reach for a book. I'm on my computer table and I reach for a book because the spiritual saying had come into my mind and I wanted to read it from the book immediately. So my hand starts reaching out for the book. And then all of a sudden I become aware of the fact, oh, I just made a choice. I want to see how that happens. So my hand drops and then I go back in my mind and I go, what just happened? And I trace back and like what happened was this thought came to mind, that brought this expression, this spiritual expression into my mind. And there was an immediate desire to read that again right then. And that all caused me to reach for the book. But it was a desire that arose in that moment that got me to do it. I didn't feel a force, you know, like I did the first time. I just felt this strong desire to reach for this book. And so I went, every time something would happen that would get me interested in finding out where my choice point was, on no occasion could I ever find one. I never found a point where I made a decision right here and that's why this happened. I couldn't find it, but I could find, you know, feelings coming into me. I could find desires arising in me, you know, and then that got me thinking, well, you know, like, am I choosing to do this? I mean, it's happening, like I'm changing directions, but is that a conscious thing? Is that a conscious thing? And I could never get to finding it. I could never find what I was looking for. And I ended up, after doing this for a long time, I ended up going, you know, I think he's right. I thought I had, you know, I had the power to choose things, but it's always preceded by a desire. Like, why would I want to make a choice to do something if there wasn't a desire there to do it in the first place? That desire has to be there. So I went through a literal process of trying to prove somebody wrong who says there wasn't free will, because I knew there was, and I ended up realizing that I was wrong and he was right, and I could not argue against it. I could not find any evidence at all except the belief system that I had it. And the belief system that you have free will is not enough for me.
Okay. Any comments?
Can I just say, I think
Yeah,
that to say that you don't have, I just had an insight about that. It's like, to say that you don't have free will is like, it's like saying that you're a victim. So if you don't have free will, that means you're subject to other people's free will or will upon you. I have to disagree. I think we do have free will, and I think it's important to have it. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of subjected to, you know, somebody else's or something else's authority and will over you. That's just my view. And you know, Brent, you were saying you couldn't find the source of your desire to, when you reach for a specific book. I feel that I think that perhaps you were looking for a specific sensation. Like, a desire comes from what? A craving, right? You're craving a specific sensation that you get from reading the book. Perhaps it's a pleasant sensation. Nothing wrong with that at all. So that could be the source of your desire. And so you're just looking for, and that's free will. Free will made you get up and look for that book and choose that book.
Well, I want to say one more thing, and that's this: where did we all learn that we had free will? When did we learn it? We trace it back, and it's like when we were very young children, about the time we were learning that there was a Santa Claus and an Easter Bunny and a tooth fairy, and this is the greatest country in the world, and capitalism is the greatest economic system, and all the rest of the mumbo jumbo that society wanted us to live by. That's when we found out about our free will. That's why we believe it. That's why it's such a strong feeling in us. And kids will believe anything you tell them when you look them straight in the face. They'll believe anything you tell them. We bought it, hook, line, and sinker. We all did. And it becomes almost an intuitive knowledge that we have it. And until you actually look for it, until you actually go for that and get away from just the belief of it, you won't see it. You'll never see it.
Oh, sorry, Faith.
I'm
Continue.
remembering something that Jesus said, something along the lines of, when I'm a child, I follow the childish ways and obey my parents. And as an adult, I leave my parents and my childish ways, meaning that we now are going to go through a deconditioning, deprogramming process of all that was false that we learned.
Okay. Kelly, did you want to say something? All right, Ken, okay, we'll do Ken and then
Can you hear
Eric.
me?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Kelly, I'm gonna have Kenny read, and then Eric has a comment, and then we'll do Kelly. Okay,
Okay,
Kenny?
okay.
Kenny, you're muted. Is this the one about the, oh, I don't want to say it. I know which one it is, I think.
Here it is.
Okay,
I chose to be happy, so why am I sad? I chose to be good, but turned out to be bad. I chose to be rich, so why am I poor? I chose being witty, but I'm still a boor. The notion of free choice is for the naive, for Egypts, rock stars, and those who believe. Choosing is easy, choosing is fun. Getting your choices is what won't get done. I chose to marry sweet, fiery Brigitte. Her no broke my heart. Now I drink margarita. I toast to my sorrow in a clear voice, imbibing tequila as my drink of choice. That's it.
yes, but is there, I mean, we make choices, and sometimes those choices we have to keep repeating to make major changes in our lives, right? We have to keep on a certain path to achieve certain things, right? It's not just matter I'm gonna be rich and then poor or whatever, right? It's our lifestyle choices. Okay, Eric?
I just want as a feeling to express that, again, as you said, Diane, we have to work our way up. That this is happening to me. I feel myself more free than the day of yesterday and ongoing. Another story, meaning, again, about a decade, I've been fighting my higher self on a daily basis. I was angry, frustrated. I said, okay, I just wanted to connect with my higher self in order to have more free will, not less. And I had the feeling, the more I was listening to my higher self, the less free will Eric was getting. You know, the first story. But the more I evolved in the years, I understood that the free will is there, but I needed to understand it in the way what is good for me. And meaning Eric, the mind Eric, 99%, sorry, just to say to Eric, and he knows it, doesn't know what's good for him. Another story, I will try to tell it very briefly. My guide said, okay, you are going to work with a company for 3 years. After 18 months, the project was gone. Again, fight. Oh, stupid guides, I tried to listen to you, blah, 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 blah. He forced me to have 3 days off because I refused from my mind to take 3 days off, but they were paid. So in the end, I could not say I was not paid. And I didn't leave the company because after 3 days, I was rehired without 3 days of no pay. And then that's the story I wanted to tell in the end. That happened to me 3 times. I was let off by the company, and my guide said, no, you will stay. The 3rd time, everybody knew the crazy Eric because he's doing things no one understands, but it works. That was the learning curve. So in the end, the 3rd time I was laid off, everybody came to me, oh, okay, Eric, what are you going to do? Are you going to find a new job? I said, no. My guide said, you will stay. Yes, they said, but logically, you try to find a new job, no? I said, no. I had it already 2 times in those 3 years. I tried to find one and they gave me one. I tried to find one and they gave me one. Now it's maybe the time not looking for anything and see what happens, because that's the learning curve. If I don't try it, I will never know. So I did zip, nothing, and I sat there. And every day, did you find something? No, I'd say I'm not even looking. The day I was let off, my manager came to me and I said, I promised you I would try to keep you. I don't have a budget. I told you that already several months. I still don't have a budget. You're staying anyway. What do I have to add on that? I just, again, as I said in the beginning, I want to add a positive approach about free will. Did I have free will? No. Did I care I didn't have free will? No, not at all. I was happy they took over.
Okay, any comments?